That's what my physicist friends told me.
Okay, want to do
Okay, great.
going great. Want to go test the microphone?
Cool, cool, cool.
Audio.
Yeah.
You want to do macho blue or something?
Yeah.
Or want to do something else? Okay.
Let's do Macho.
ואני ברוב חסדך
Please be seated, but I do remember how to do it, so please be seated. Good afternoon. I'm Rabbi Devorah Weisberg, and I'm the director of the HUC-JIR Rabbinical School, and I am delighted to welcome you to the long overdue ordination ceremony for the Los Angeles campus class of 2020. We're honored today with the presence of the president of HUC-JIR, Dr. Andrew Rehfeld, our provost, Rabbi Andrea Weiss, the dean of the Los Angeles campus, Dr. Joshua Holo, and the chair of our Board of Governors, Sue Newman-Hochberg. I'm also happy that the dean of the New York campus, Rabbi David Adelson, is here with us. And I want to acknowledge and thank our hosts at Congregation Beth Israel, Rabbi Jason Navarez, Rabbi Jeremy Gimbel, and the events operation manager, Mendy Streeb, for making it possible for us to be here in this very lovely space. I'm going to ask our president, Dr. Andrew Rehfeld, to say hello.
Thank you, Rabbi Weisberg, and thank you for your leadership, particularly at this very challenging moment. I'm tempted, given the order of the day, simply to say hello and sit down, but you'll excuse me just 90 seconds. A reflection, first of all, to congratulate our ordinands, our ordinees, our rabbis who are about to be reconfirmed in your ordination, and what a celebration this is. And when I look at this moment and I think about what it represents, a moment that comes not from light, but comes from darkness, a moment that reminds us, no matter how dark, no matter how deep, no matter how pressing the conflict may appear at a moment, there is always light ahead, literally. So on this day, congratulations. Thank you. That's impressive. Thank you for allowing us to celebrate the overcoming of this dark moment and the exciting and bright future ahead. And let it be shown for the record, my remarks were 90 seconds, even if they actually were longer. Thank you.
I didn't order a 23-gun salute. In Pirkei Avot 2:9, the first century sage, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, tells 5 of his students, go out and discover what path a person shall follow, and that's not flight path. When they return, each offers a different answer. Rabbi Eliezer said, Ayin Tov, a good attitude, the ability to look at what you have and to be satisfied. Rabbi Joshua says, Chaver Tov, you should strive to be a good friend. Rabbi Yossi said, Shachen Tov, you should strive to be a good neighbor. Rabbi Shimon said, Haro'eh et hanolad, a person should consider the likely consequences before acting. And Rabbi Elazar said, Lev Tov, a person should have a good heart. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai responded, I want to lift up Rabbi Elazar's response, for it encompasses all the others. When I look at you, I see the wisdom of Yochanan's statement. 2 years ago, as we were planning for your ordination ceremony, we suddenly found ourselves in a global pandemic. Not only was it inconceivable to gather with your family, friends, and teachers at Wise Temple, as we had planned, we couldn't even take up your suggestion to have ordination in my backyard. It would have been understandable if you had been angry or had complained that life was unfair. But that's not what you did. Each of you showed that you possess an ayin tov, the capacity to be grateful for what you have accomplished, even when it could not be publicly celebrated. You were chaverim u'shchenim tovim, good friends and supporters for each other. You demonstrated that you were able lirot et hanolad, to weigh the impact of your response to the situation and what that impact might have moving forward. And most of all, each of you displayed a lev tov and a neshama tova, a goodness of heart and soul. You were clear, both 2 years ago and as we planned this ceremony, that what mattered to you was not the magnificence of the building in which you would be ordained, although this one's pretty impressive, but the presence of your classmates and your colleagues. What mattered to you was not your surroundings, but the people who surround you, not extensive speeches or congratulations, but the blessings of those who know and care about you. Today, we honor your accomplishments at HUC and your accomplishments since you left HUC. Your work to create a place for yourselves, entering communities when even moving into your new office was a challenge. Your effort to make meaning in a world turned upside down. And your continuing care for each other, demonstrated most recently in your insistence that this ceremony be held at a time when every one of you could be present. My prayer for you today is that as you traverse the path of life, you continue to cultivate the qualities enumerated by Yochanan ben Zakkai's students. May you find satisfaction in what you have. May you think before acting. May your hearts be nourished by your friendship and your collegiality, even when you are only neighbors in the long distance. I am so grateful to have been your teacher, and I am so grateful now to be your colleague. Rabbi Weiss, we are now going to ordain the class of 2020. Leora bat Avraham Vikela Esther, Leora Esther Alban, who will be blessed by Rabbi Dan Feder.
I was hoping we were going in reverse alphabetical order. Well, first of all, it is such an honor because of the unfortunate timing of the last 2 years to be able to give you this blessing. But it's an honor to be able to do it having seen what you are capable of becoming as a rabbi in Israel. Before you arrived, it was very clear that you were a person of high character, of keen intellect, and of strong moral grounding. All of these things are essential to be good people, and in particular, to be good rabbis. My blessing for you is that you will double down on what is your secret power, which is a really, really good soul and a loving heart. And as you guide our congregation, and as you make rabbinic decisions, as you counsel people, may your judgments, may your decisions, and may your guide be your heart and your soul, because they will lead you in beautiful directions. Baruch atah Adonai boneh Yisrael. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, who with people like you built our community of Israel. Amen.
Thank you.
Meir Gafnayahu ben Avraham Visara, Mayor Christopher Bargeron, who will be blessed by me. Meir, you came to Judaism as a seeker. Today, we recognize you as a pathfinder and a guide to others who seek meaning, comfort, and wisdom. As your name, Meir, suggests, you are a light to those you serve and to the students you teach and mentor. You radiate enthusiasm and love for Judaism and compassion and care for those around you. Your classmates and your teachers benefited from the light you brought to HUC. May that light now inspire all those who call you Rabbi.
Thank you, Dora.
Noach Ari ben Moshe Yehudit, Noah A.L. Diamondstein, who will be blessed by Rabbi Joel Simons.
Noah, my friend and my teacher, the last time I saw you in person, we were talking about what this moment would be like. We're taught in our tradition that wherever we go to build a mikdash me'at, a mini sanctuary. That can be the sanctuary in DC, but for the beginning of your rabbinate, that was the sanctuary of your kitchen table, of your dining room table. But 20 years from now, wherever you are, it's going to be that mikdash me'at, not only because of your love of liturgy, not only because of your pastoral heart, but that sanctuary was built inside of you when you were born, and it only grows with every year and with every day that you take on this mantle, Rabbi. It's all tough.
Yitzchak Ben Chaim Vitula, Calvin Sebastian Dox DaCosta. Calvin will be blessed by Rabbi David Eshel.
This is so awesome, right? Just being here together. This is so good. Nice. Seriously nice. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy. Kedushim tihiyu ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohechem. Be holy, because I, Adonai, your God, am holy. What I love about this statement is that the you be holy, God is speaking to us, is in the plural, right? It's you all. And it says a few things to me. One, that each and every one of our holiness and our potential for holiness depends on each other. Right? Your holiness depends on me, and my holiness depends on you. And second, that holiness is something to aspire towards and work towards, not intrinsic. And you, my friend, you are an active creator of holiness, not just for yourself, but for all of us. We need people like you in our lives, in our community, in our world, who help us to find that holiness in ourselves and then to share that with others. Calvin, knowing you for more than 20 years, you do this so effortlessly and with such kindness and warmth and integrity. My blessing for you is that you recognize that in yourself with courage, humility, strength, and love. You are a true light unto all of us. I'm okay. I so look forward to being by your side as you lead us into a bright, bright future. Thank you. Mazel tov.
Hannah Bela Bat Ruven Daniel Yakira Sarah Nora Elizabeth E. Feinstein. I will be blessing her. Nora, there's a custom of ending one's Amidah by reciting a verse that begins and ends with the first and last letters of your Hebrew name. For your name, Hannah, the suggested verse is Proverbs 31:17, Chagra be'oz matneha v'te'amet zera'oteha, which I will loosely translate. She girds herself with strength and performs her work energetically. Nora, over the years that I've known you, I've seen you gird yourself with strength to overcome challenges. Your strength is complemented by gentleness, integrity, and groundedness. May you continue to be a source of blessing to those around you. Yehuda Hanun Eliyahu ben Moshe Umachla Chaya Liba, Daniel Moss Friedman. Daniel will be blessed by Rabbi Zach Shapira.
Smile. Daniel, you illuminate the rabbinate for all the right reasons. You're earnest, you are kind, you are sincere, you listen. You push us to take risks, and you catch us when we need some TLC. When you read a psalm at the bedside of those who are sick, we feel God's presence. We feel God's presence. When you urge us to take action for a cause, we hear God's clarion call. And when you officiate at a life moment, like you did at the naming of my twins, we recognize God's soul. Moshe kibel Torah mi Sinai. Moses received Torah at Sinai. Daniel, through you, this incredible conversation, this treasure will flourish, and it will deepen. And with it, you will continue, along with your beloved Leora, make the world a better place.
Sarah Elisheva Bat Yonatan Verut, Sarah Elizabeth Rosenbaum Jones, who will be blessed by Rabbi Ari Margolis.
Oh, it's so nice in the shade.
Rabbi Sarah Rosenbaum Jones, today you receive the special blessing declaring you Rav LeYehudim, a leader of our people. This blessing codifies what we already know about you. You're already our rabbi at Or Shalom and my rabbi that I've come to trust. In my attempts to mentor and guide you into the field of rabbinic service, I've learned plenty more from the Torah of your integrity, your wisdom, and your kindness. As you continue to embrace the sacred roles that you've grown into as spouse, as parent, and as rabbi, we all pray that you'll maintain faith in your journey and in what we've already been blessed to witness, that your teaching and leadership plants seeds of divine change in the hearts and souls of those you serve. May you always know this impact, even when it comes to fruit years in the future. And may we always be strengthened by you. Ken Yehi Ratzon.
This would be a special occasion, even if it had happened 2 years ago. I think alachat kama v'chama, how much more so today. And so I've asked our musicians to lead us as a community in Shehachianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu b'zman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu b'zman hazeh. Amen.
We'll now hear words of Torah from our newly ordained rabbis.
We're going in reverse alphabetical order because I always get the pleasure of being at the end, and Liori always gets the pleasure of being at the beginning. So, switching it up. Min hamitzar karati ya anani b'merchav ya. From the narrow space I called out ya. God answered me in God's expansive space. From our teacher, Rabbi Richard Levy. The narrow space, the meaning of this phrase, so different for each individual as we encounter the corporeal and spiritual worlds. For me, the narrow space of these last 3 years take on a very literal meaning. I was thrust into narrow spaces of hospital rooms, MRI machines, operating tables, and the physical limits that medical treatment has placed on me. My narrow spaces since beginning a full-time career in July have also been mental and emotional. Finding my mind closing when it might be open, and doubting my own capacity, my authority, my ability to be an effective leader. Many times I have failed to call out Yah until I could do nothing else but burst into a great expanse. I want to remember the words of Psalm 118 in my heart, so today I present these words to you, to remind myself and all of us that whenever we call, divinity and its loved ones are there, ever present, to usher us into the expansive space. And so we are too for those around us. It's not good for humanity to be alone. We need our human and divine partners to sharpen our senses and bring our minds and hearts into the expanse of creative thinking, of deeper loving of ourselves and others. This, an opening, a sharpening, a loving, and a caring, is how I hope to live and continue to expand my rabbinate. First, we will all call.
Rabban Gamliel, the son of Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, said, "Excellent is the study of Torah, Talmud Torah, when combined with a worldly occupation. For toil in them both makes sin forgotten." Pirkei Avot 2:2. For our 2020 ordination booklet, I chose to highlight this verse from Pirkei Avot. For me, the verse encapsulated why I was excited to finally become a rabbi. 2 years ago, I wrote, "I discovered that by becoming a rabbi, I could most appropriately pair my Torah with a worldly occupation." 2 years ago, and quite honestly, before I began my time at HUC, I thought that by becoming a rabbi, my study of Torah would be naturally combined with my occupation. It turns out this is not necessarily the case. As a student, my full-time job was learning Torah. Only secondarily did I work in a Jewish community. As an intern, my responsibilities were framed by my studies. My internships served to remind me of how my love of learning Torah could be applied to the world. As a rabbi, my full-time job as administrator, teacher, spiritual guide, and listener, my learning has come to be rooted in these roles. Within only a few months of becoming a rabbi, I found myself missing my time at the college, with a much higher focus on learning Torah than on fulfilling my worldly occupation. As a rabbi, I love bringing my Torah into the world. However, I have learned that it becomes very easy to overlook my role as a continual learner of Torah, losing the feeling of excitement, of wonder, of growing my own Judaism, instead of focusing on making Jewish life happen for others. At HUC, I developed a love of Talmud Torah, and it was a strength that propelled me forward. It is no coincidence that the verse I chose puts Talmud Torah first, before worldly occupation. Sometimes couples have a renewal of vows to remind themselves of the primary reasons for being together. For 2 years, I have worked hard to sustain Jewish life during a time that has been extremely challenging for the world. I know I have left a profound impact on college students at Santa Barbara Hillel and now the families at Temple Sinai. Yet, something is missing. Today, I stand here before God and my community, reminding myself of the importance of Talmud Torah, a study of Torah to a fulfilling rabbinate. May my role as a learner of Torah come to feed my soul, and thereby the souls of all of the ones I serve, now and forever.
I think I'm next in the alphabetical order of things, reverse style. In my first Talmud class at HUC, we studied Masachet Ta'anit. Ta'anit discusses individual and communal responses to difficult periods and unexpected challenges. In one section, the rabbis tell a story of Rabbi Elazar, son of Rabbi Shimon, who one day leaves his teacher's house with his head full of Torah. And we read, Sameach Simcha Gedolah, he was delighted by all he had learned. Along the way from his teacher's house back to his town, Rabbi Elazar encounters a certain person and treats this person unkindly. The person calls him out on his hurtful and downright unrabbinic behavior. It is as though the rabbis present this encounter to us in order to say, it is not enough for a rabbi to be full of Torah. It's not sufficient for her to be self-satisfied with her knowledge. The work of a rabbi is to be with other people, to learn with them, to pray with them, to build sacred community with them. This section, the sugya, ends with the rabbi sharing the lessons he gleaned from the experience with others. Le'olam yeheh adam rach kekaneh. A person should always be flexible and tender like the reed. They should maintain dynamic softness, rooted in place and able to respond nimbly to the conditions around them. Over the past 2 years, as we each went on our way from our teacher's house at HUC with heads full of Torah, we encountered all kinds of people, and I have watched and witnessed from a distance as each of you met all of these people with compassion, with courage, with curiosity. You grew into even more capable teachers and dynamic spiritual guides. You learned how to dance like the reed, afilu kol ha'orachot ba'olam sheba'olam noshvot bo, even when all the winds in the world were changing direction, when everything we had learned was uprooted and overturned. We learned how to be rabbis in new places, applying all we studied forward, trying to find sustainable ways to serve others, even as we sunk our roots into new communities ourselves. At HUC, our teachers modeled the power of bringing Jewish wisdom into conversation with the wider world. They showed us how nourishing our ancient texts can be for Jewish life today. And now it is a joy. It is simply a joy to be able to thank some of those teachers in person. And it is an honor, finally, to be able to call each of you my rabbis and my teachers too. I hope that this long-awaited ritual affirms not only how adaptable we have become, but also the sacredness and the profound Jewishness of growing from difficult periods and unexpected challenges. Each of us is writing the next chapter of our people's collective story. And in our day-to-day lives, it can be hard to remember what a blessing that work is. So on this, our long-awaited ordination day, I hope we all pause and really feel the Simcha Gedolah. We really soak in the great happiness before returning to our individual journeys with heads full of Torah and hearts ready to encounter others with kindness. Thank you all, and Mazal Tov.
In the book of Exodus, God says, "Ve'asuli mikdash v'shachanti betocham." Let them make me a sanctuary, so that I may dwell among them. This is a beautiful sentiment, which also happens to be the ultimate example of if you build it, they will come. 12 years ago, Temple Israel of Hollywood was trying to build something new by looking for a new full-time youth director. Rabbi Eshel introduced me to Rabbi Hudson, and after a formal interview process, I was hired. I served that community in that role for 5 years and came to realize that this idea that I had been toying with of becoming a rabbi was no longer something that I could do, but something that I should. After my acceptance to Hebrew Union College, the Jewish Institute of Religion, and spending a year in Israel, I was fortunate to come home and study at the LA campus, where I returned to Temple Israel of Hollywood as a religious school teacher and later as their rabbinic intern. After ordination, I was brought onto the clergy team at Temple Israel of Hollywood as their rabbinic fellow. And after a year, I was promoted and am now the assistant rabbi of that community. Call it Kismet, maybe it's Besheret. Whatever it is, I feel incredibly blessed to have grown up in this community these last 12 years. Teaching students, learning alongside adults, creating experiences with lay leaders, and making tough decisions as a part of the senior leadership. I truly feel as though I'm living out a teaching I learned many, many years ago. If you build it, they might come. But if you build it with them, they'll already be there. Thank you to everyone who helped each of us reach this moment.
You're going to find out in a second that we did not share with each other which texts we chose. Even masu habonim haita l'rosh pina. The stone that the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. There's nothing like absence to teach you the value of something. The start of our rabbinates were marked chiefly by what we could not do. We could not gather face to face, nor sing together. For many, we couldn't even mourn together. Living with those absences has left an indelible mark on me, I'm sure all of us, as a rabbi. And it's concretized and clarified what the most important parts of Jewish living are to me, and made me appreciate them all the more as we move step by step toward the open space. Min hametzar karati ya, anani v'merchavya. One of my first duties as a rabbi was arranging for the transportation of our Torah scrolls to family homes for the celebration of B'nai Mitzvah on Zoom. We learned to move in new ways during these years. I learned family histories beside minivans and SUVs and helped folks get up close and personal with the holy. It doesn't surprise me that the imagination of our sages described a mythic era where every single Jew would handwrite their own Torah scroll and bring it to the temple on sacred occasions. From a certain point of view, we've always been doing exactly that. Each of us bringing our own Torah to our place and trying to hold space for all of us. As we've done before, as the rabbis whose title we've inherited have always done. We adapt and we find new ways to be and to become in new circumstances. And to paraphrase Mordechai HaYehudi, who knows? Maybe it is for this precise moment in history that we've been giving this blessing of leadership. Zeh hayom asa Adonai, nagila v'nismech avo. This is the day God made. Let's make the most of it.
like my classmates, I went through an experience about 20 months ago no, longer anyway, whenever COVID started, of preparing for this day as we were planning it and picking a text that was meaningful to us at that moment. And I came to this task today and I had to start over because it has been just an incredible journey. And I'm not the same person that I was 20 minutes ago. Perhaps none of us were, really. But here today, as I think about our tradition, this text spoke to me. Joshua ben Parachia used to say, "Make for yourself a rabbi, acquire for yourself a friend, and judge every person favorably." Regarding this verse from Pirkei Avot, the Lev Simcha taught, a rabbi encourages fear of God, but a friend can lead to love of God, which we learn is even greater than fear. Boy, have I learned over these past 2 years how much stronger love is than fear, as we have gone through a very frightening, unsettling time. And in the midst of that, actually at the beginning of that, I found myself at Congregation Achdut V'Shalom as their rabbi. And they became my congregation. And over these last 2 years, I have been learning to embrace people in friendship in a way that I never thought possible. People who I have come to know very well as people who are less familiar to me. As their rabbi, I have experienced a type of relationship that is entirely new to me. On Zoom screens, we came together as a holy community, and we came together in friendship. And the friendship that I have been privileged to experience in my community reminds me of the friendship that I experienced in this community and the inspiration that I received from my teachers, classmates, and my teachers on the faculty. And it gave me the ability to serve my community as we accompany one another to experience the Holy Blessed One. And as you taught me and you taught me, I teach them and they are teaching me. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, who brings friends together to reach out to you in love.
So nice to see you all here, friends and faces that I haven't seen in 2 years. So I just want to recognize that. 2 years ago, I had a very specific vision for what being a real rabbi would look like. I imagined that upon the laying of hands on my head at ordination, I would go from being Leora to being Rabbi Leora Albin. And at that time, this archetype of rabbi looked a certain way. Self-assured, knowing exactly what to say, and always knowing more about our tradition than lay leaders know. But after being a rabbi for 2 years, I obviously know this is not always the case. It seems like every day there is a new question about Jewish history or Jewish law that I don't know how to answer, and I have to say, I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one. Or there's a conundrum with a child or a family in my youth education program, and I'm not quite sure the best way to move forward. I often tell my B'nai Mitzvah students that turning 13 doesn't actually mean they're becoming a Jewish adult on their birth date, as our tradition has told them. Actually, the B'nai Mitzvah ceremony is setting them on a path toward Jewish adulthood, and that this path will continue for years and years to come. Ordination is similar. Yes, I know that I'm a real rabbi, even if this sometimes looks different from the vision I had 2 years ago. But I also know that becoming the rabbi I want to be is a continual process, a process that will continue for years and years to come for the rest of my life. Pirkei Avot 1:17 teaches, Shimon ben Gamliel said, "All my days I grew up among the sages, and I have found nothing better for a person than silence." Study is not the most important thing, but actions are the most important thing. I share this teaching today because it speaks to what I've learned as a rabbi so far. To me, silence means having the humility to simply be present for people, providing them a safe space to be themselves, and knowing that even though I'm the rabbi in all of my relationships, I don't always have to be the person with the answers. And action refers to the way I show up for people and the steps that I take, grand and small, to allow them to feel holiness in their lives. Over these last 2 years, I've impacted lives, and I know that I will continue to make a difference in the years to come. I feel the privilege and the responsibility of the holy role of rabbi as acutely today as I did 2 years ago. Thank you to everyone who has supported us in bringing us to this moment. And God, thank you for bringing me to this moment, and thank you for allowing me to walk this sacred path.
Baruch shesamta chalki b'beit hamidrash. Thank you, God, for allowing my portion in life to be not only in a Beit Midrash, but in their Beit Midrash. We'll conclude our service today with a blessing from Rabbi Karen Fox, who was selected by the class to offer the address that took place at their consecration in 2020.
It's terrific to be here and great to see you in real life and your faces beaming as they are. And before I say the blessing, I would like to simply say thanks to the musicians for creating the energy here. Jeremy and Heidi Gantwerk and Andy Mayer, thank you. It lifts us up just to be together and sing together and hear the experience, so thank you. So 2 years ago, we gathered online, and I saw your faces, Mayor, and Nora, and Daniel, and Leora, and Sarah, and Noah, and Calvin. And it was an imagined moment that wasn't the way you imagined. And that's part of what we're learning anyway, that what we imagine isn't necessarily what is. But I ask you to pay attention to a small text, Se'u et Rosh, lift up your head. have timed it better. But at that point, I was thinking not of those sounds, but of Se'u et Rosh in terms of what does it mean to extend yourself and measure up as a human being? What does it mean to stand up and be counted as the unique leader that you are? What does it mean to extend your head and assert yourself and sometimes stick your neck out? And what does it mean to reach out with heart and soul and be lifted up and uplift others? And I think we could not have imagined what that meant 2 years ago to what your life has become in these years. And I see you're shaking your heads, and you can recall those moments where you were there to uplift someone or stick your neck out or really assert yourself in a way for others and maybe for yourself. And so that extension of Se'u et Rosh is something that you continue in your life. It contains virtues that allow you to grow and virtues that allow you to grow into yourself more and more and more. V'yi noam Adonai Eloheinu aleinu, u'ma'aseh yadeinu konanehu aleinu, u'ma'aseh yadeinu konanehu. May God's comforting presence embrace you in the everyday conversation and the extraordinary experience. May the work of your hearts, your hands, your mouth, and your feet be assertive, be kind, be uplifting, be inspiring, and be inspired by your Torah learning. And may that work, which is God's emerging presence in this world, carry impact, reveal compassion, and inspire peace. I am so proud to call you Rabbi. Mazel tov. Mazel tov to your families and spouses and parents and faculty and the whole community. Mazel tov.
Hayom te'amsenu amen. Hayom tevarchenu